right, I think we can get started. So Sarah, can you kick off this meeting?
Yeah, so everyone, welcome. I hope you're all having a great Wednesday night. So let's top it off with an awesome meeting at Women Lead Toastmasters. So first, to start the meeting, let's hear a little bit about the club.
Great. Thank you guys for bearing with my technical difficulties today. But as you can see on the screen, Women Lead Toastmasters, for those of you maybe first time joining us, we are, you can find us a little bit more information on our webpage, womenleadtm.com. And the top 3 verbs that we like to encourage all of us to embody is improve, empower, and learn. We put these bi-weekly theme-based meetings and also a lot of weekly blog posts and also upcoming a lot of YouTube videos. I'll share with you guys one that we actually made this week and give us feedback so we can make a lot more. And what we will also like to learn through a lot of our feature workshops and supplemental workshops as well. So we will share a little bit more detailed information towards the end of the meeting today. Next slide. And our purpose is to provide a safe platform to practice public speaking, build future leaders, empower others, find our voice, and share ideas across cultures. And our mission is to empower people like you. Next slide. And I'm still in the process of updating this, but the first row, as you can see, we have some minor changes. Sarah is now going to be our treasurer, and Sujin is taking on our sergeant at arms, and we're still waiting for her pictures to come in, who's going to be our new officer starting in July. So this is a new term of officer. I want to thank everyone for contributing to making this team a success. And our official theme of the night is code switching. So I hope you guys have taken a look at some of the web in our newsletter or blog posts about the definition of code switching. Just in case you haven't, next slide. I'm putting together a very quick definition. And especially in the linguistic world, we actually have this definition of ability to move back and forth among languages, dialects, and also register with ease as demanded by the social situation. And oftentimes, actually, in the work environment, we sometimes speak differently, dress a little differently to fit in, or trying to get the next promotion, or potentially get our employment as well. And lots of great information was shared in the blog post, in the YouTube video, and also some of the upcoming speeches as well. Next slide. And one quote that I really like is, every superhero has this superhero identity and a civilian identity. A lot of their lives are about code switching. And I think all of us have our own superhero inside. Next. Oh, this one didn't get refreshed in time. But we should share the URL that's actually linked in at the bottom, where you can find more of the agenda. That's weird. It was actually updated on my slide. And the meeting roles in particular, for those of you guys maybe first time joining us, feel free to click on that link and you will be able to get detailed information on all of the new meeting roles if this is your first time. Great, and you can reach out to us on various social channels. We now also have a YouTube channel as well. Next, and thank you. And now I would like to turn to our Toastmasters of the evening to officially kick off our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lene. Hi, I'm Sujin. I'm today's Toastmaster. And then I think Lene did a great job introducing today's theme called switching. I think many of us can relate to the topic because of many members in this group have a diverse background and also working in a multicultural environment. So I would like to kick off today's meeting with the leader profile. Today's leader profile will be presented by Lakshmi Nathan. Lakshmi,
Okay.
take it away.
Sure. Can I share my screen?
You can share it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So what I did was, it's a right opportunity to share this with you all. I got the link from the CEO of magazine, the top 16 influential women for 2021. And they have clearly mentioned about the commander, Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And they have mentioned about how she grew in that position. And also the other one is the challenge maker, who actually fight for the disability right, which is, I believe, Shani Danda, and also the CEO of the Yum China, the girl who could. And these are the women leaders, they have proved themselves, and also the quiet defender. And she's very famous for her excellency, which is Tsai Ing-wen, presidents of Taiwan. And they have also talked about some other women leaders. And personally, I am pretty impressed with this person, which is Lee-Zik, the YouTube blogger, and who is the almost 2.3 billion views of all her YouTube channel, 15 million subscriber, which is a Guinness World Record. And I'm pretty impressive about this very young age, how she became this popular. So what I'm trying to, and lastly with the Radhi, and she, a very young person, and after marriage, how she proved herself, and with her YouTube and Ayurvedic. And she has, especially during the pandemic, and she's really very popular. And though her husband is a very popular guy with a motivated speaker. So these are all things I just wanted to share with you all today.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Great. I would like to introduce today's meeting roles. And then today's, I will start with our counter. And today's our counter is Chimek. Chimek, could you briefly describe our counter role?
As an R counter, I am going to count the number of filler words like you know, like, and I'll report them at the end. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thanks, Abhijit. I think Chimek is not available today. All right, thank you. The next is grammarian. Renee, can you briefly share what grammarian does for the meeting?
Yes, absolutely. Grammarian essentially is a role where we capture the good usage of grammar and also the potential improvement area for grammar. And we will encourage you to use the word of the day, and I will send that over in the chat window.
Mm-hmm. All right, next is timer. Today's timer is Bhavna. Bhavna, could you please share about timer's role?
Yeah, as a timer, I'll be responsible for monitoring time for each meeting segment and each speaker. Back to you, Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Bhavna. And then next is general evaluator. Today's general evaluator is Helen. Helen, please introduce about general evaluator's role.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. The general evaluator takes a look at the entire meeting, how each person takes charge of the roles they've been assigned, how the evaluators do in their evaluation of the speakers, and a summary of the meeting itself, how well we kept to our agenda and timekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing a small report at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Helen. And then thank you for all the role bearers for the meeting today to make our experience more meaningful. And then, so now it's time for prepare the speech. And then our first speaker, we have 4 speakers today, so it's a full house. The first speaker is Karen, and her evaluator is Shoba. So Shoba, could you please share about Karen's speech objectives?
Thank you, Sujin. So Karen will be speaking from the pathways engaging humor, and at level 2, which is the project is knowing your sense of humor. The purpose of her speech will be to have a collection of humorous stories and present a speech that is humorous as well. The title of her speech is I Will Do It Later. Back to you, Sujin.
Thanks, Shoba. Thanks for the introduction. So the first speech, the Karen, I will do it later. I will do it later, Karen.
We've all used it. It's so easy to push the "I'll do it later" button. Today, I want to share one of my later button stories with you. And it's kind of personal. So I'm going to ask you if this could be a confidential conversation between you and me. I have had a great career. I've worked in 4 different industries at 5 different companies, not counting the 3 companies that I founded. I have met the most amazing people. I have traveled the globe for business and for personal pleasure. But I've made a few choices inadvertently. I bet you have too. Inadvertently, when you choose not to choose because you hit the later button. I've been able to recover. But I wanted to share my journey with you because I think it will help you out. I didn't think about having children until I was 39. Now, many others attempted to insert this thought into my head. My mother, a prime example. But I was able to fend her off. And then I decided I was ready. My husband had had a vasectomy, so we had to have that reversed. And then we tried. And then we tried with drugs. And then we tried with sperm donation. Now that adds a little variety into the picture because now you've got a 3rd set of genetics you're adding into the picture. And you have to ask yourself that question, how do you choose? Well, I didn't have to worry about it because that didn't work either. Then we moved to in vitro fertilization. This is the point in a fertility journey where you stop measuring things in thousands of dollars and you start measuring things in tens of thousands of dollars. Just so you know, it's not cheap. It's very stressful. And every month you get that failure report. And sometimes it really hurts. Well, the IVF didn't work either. Finally, my fertility doctor sat down and talked to me and showed me this chart, which I wish I saw when I was 20. In that upper left corner, do you see that? When you're 20, your fertility is screaming. And as you crash down through the ages, this is where I started, somewhere about midway on that curve, only standing a 50% chance. And for every year I moved down, it went down. The doctor said, Karen, I still think there's a way that this will work. We think you can carry a baby, but you have to use donor eggs. Now we got another 3rd party involved in the whole things, only she's going to produce the eggs for us. Well, I got to tell you that I really believe in that process. And after a lot of work, I brought home Zachary, my first son, at age 45, my miracle baby. There are a whole lot of things when you have a brand new baby at home. A lot of firsts. The first bath. I tried desperately not to let this slippery child slide down the drain while I was giving him his first bath. And what I probably should have been thinking at this point are thoughts like this. But I don't think about things that way. And it's a good thing because it's allowed me to get this far. When you have eggs, donor eggs, and that's how you have a baby, you get the advantages of batch processing. You see, you process all the eggs, you fertilize them, you use some, and you throw some in the freezer, like every good mother knows. You put a little stash in the freezer just in case you need soup on a day you can't make it. So 2 years later, the twins appeared in our life. we thought out 2 of Zachary's little brothers and hatched them. Now, a lot of people ask me, what is it like to have twins? And I've thought a lot about it. And I think this picture actually sums it up quite well. This is the day we arrived in Maui. I am running crazy through our timeshare, suitcases in this room, eggs in the refrigerator, and I come across this scene with insane giggling, which was what drew me into the bathroom. This is the day they figured out how to flush a toilet. And you look at the glee on their faces. They are totally thrilled. I think they flushed all of Maui County's water down this toilet during that week that we were there. Now, you know, sometimes I look at these gleeful faces and I think, they're laughing at me, aren't they? And I never know exactly what they might be thinking, but I always have this itching feeling that those 2 boys are laughing at me. Raising kids takes an awful lot of effort. And when I had the twins, I realized I was 10 to 20 years older than all the other moms. Well, that has its advantages. You know, older people don't cry over spilled milk or perhaps spilled spaghetti. This was the first time they learned to open my pantry door. I guess I should be glad they stopped with the spaghetti. But if you think this is exhausting, when they get older, it's even more so. 2 weeks ago, we spent 3 or 4 days at a lake. We rented a boat, and I spent 8 hours each day driving the boat for the teenagers so they could learn to ski. It's physically exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting. And I think sometimes that I could have missed all that because I hit that later button too many times. And I wanted to share this with you. So wherever you are on your journey, I hope that this can be helpful, because I've had the awesome opportunity of bringing these 3 into the world and raising them into what we hope will be good young men. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks for sharing your story with us today. Timer, please give us 1 minute for Karen's speech evaluation.
The evaluation form is on the chat.
Thanks, Priya. All right, 1 minute is up. So next, our speaker is Shannon, and then her evaluator is Samantha. Hey, Samantha, could you introduce Shannon's speech today?
Yes, Shannon's pathway is team collaboration. She will be giving her level 1 research and presenting speech. Shannon recently joined a new industry, renewable energy. She wanted to learn more about a fundamental topic, AC and DC current, and use this project to research and present on the history from the 1800s through to present day. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Samantha. Shannon, AC versus DC from the current watt to current day. AC versus DC from the current watt to current day. Shannon.
It's a beautiful sunny day, and suddenly your power goes out. But you're all right. You have solar panels on top of your house, so you'll be okay, right? Well, it turns out that during a power outage, you can't use your solar panels. I wanted to learn why. And while searching for this, I was led down the path of the history between AC, alternating, and DC, direct current. I'm going to share today with what I learned, where we are now, and hopefully answer that question for you. So as I learned in my college Introductory to Electricity and Magnetism course, there's two different kinds of current. One, direct current, where all the current is flowing in one direction, compared to alternating current, where it's switching directions anywhere between 50 and 60 times per second, depending on where you are in the world. But what I didn't learn in college was that wasn't inevitable. Back in the late 1800s, it wasn't clear that we were going to be all using AC power. So as I learned in the PBS documentary, War of the Currents, it all came down to two scientists, Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse. Thomas Edison was a proponent of direct current. At that time, direct current was mostly used in homes for incandescent light bulbs. On the other side was George Westinghouse, and he was a proponent of alternating or AC current, which was mostly used outside in things like arc lamps. One of the challenges at the time, as described by the Michigan State University interactive exhibit called Electrifying America, was the ability to transfer this current over long distances. In order to do it effectively, you need to do it at high voltages, but that wasn't possible with direct current. In fact, all of the users needed to be within 1 mile of where it was generated. But along came Nikola Tesla with a great invention called a transformer. This allowed the current to be able to go from low voltage up to high voltage, and thus less current, go over long distances and then step down. The rub, though, was that this only worked for AC or alternating current. So in 1887, George Westinghouse purchased all of these patents from Tesla for $60,000, and that set up history. It all came to a head in 1893 with the Chicago World's Fair. Both Thomas Edison with his DC current and George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla with their alternating current bid on the project. At the end of the day, the alternating current project won out. Why do you think? They had lower cost. And that was partially because of the transformer allowed them to need less wire because of their losses. And 27 million people came to the Chicago World's Fair and saw the electrification. And from that time on, 80% of all projects going forward were alternating current. And by the early 1900s, it had completely switched over. So you might be thinking, oh, so that's the end of the story, right? We had DC and AC, we chose AC, and here we are. But as it turns out, it's actually, we're looking at DC again. As Andy Boyd explained in his podcast from the University of Houston called Engines of Ingenuity, today everything that uses transistors needs DC current. So that means everything from your laptop to your Roomba needs direct current. One way to be able to tell is if you look at the cord on your appliance, if there's a little box, that's actually converting the alternating current that's coming out of your wall to DC or direct current that's going into your laptop. Another example is electric vehicles. They use batteries and that's all charged with direct current. Another thing that's kind of interesting is there's actually a lot of appliances that can run on direct current. And that, according to Michael Boxwell of the Solar Electricity Handbook, is due to the prevalence of RVers. They want to be able to hook up appliances to their car batteries, which is 12 volts. So that allowed a lot of appliances to be standardized on DC. And now people that are going out to do things like an off-grid cabin can actually use the appliances that were developed for RVing. So today we actually use a lot of DC current. But one of the challenges, as described by Emir Ifan in his article in Scientific American entitled Edison Revenge, talks about a 5 to 10% the electricity is actually lost when we do this conversion. So it's super inefficient to do something like produce electricity with DC, such as solar panels, convert it to AC to go into your house, and then convert it again to go to your laptop. So there's actually organizations out there such as eMERGE that are looking for ways to do DC at the larger scale. And now this brings us back to our original question, right? Why weren't the solar panels working during the power outage? I just told you that a laptop runs on DC power, so why couldn't I just like hook up my laptop to the solar panel? Well, it turns out in order to actually use the electricity in your house, it needs to go from DC through the inverter to AC back to DC. And there's actually a safety mechanism that's built into all of these inverters that as soon as the power grid goes down, they shut off. And this is because if we didn't do that, then your solar panel at home could be creating electricity, sending it to the grid. And if there's a line worker or someone working on the grid that's down and unexpected electricity is coming across, it could be really dangerous. So it's an important safety feature. But all that's to say that if you're looking a way to be more resilient, be able to, survive the next time that the grid gets overloaded, it might be important to look at ways to do DC storage and do some DC coupling of your appliances. So thank you for your attention today. I shared with you the history of AC versus DC current, shared with why we're re-examining that choice now. And in my opinion, we need both of these technologies to make sure we have the best chance of keeping the lights on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shanna. Thanks, Shanna. Yeah, your speech made me feel more interested about electricity. So yeah, please, timer, please give us 1 minute for Shanna's speech evaluation. Priya, can you share the evaluation form again? I think Luna is looking for the form. Oh, Abhijit. Thank you, Abhijit. All right, moving on to the next speech. The next speaker is Sarah, and then her evaluator is Teresa. Teresa, can you share about, can you introduce Sarah's speech objectives?
Yes, hi, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Today, Sarah will be speaking, and her pathway is motivation strategies, level 3, and her purpose is to cultivate on the understanding of how his and her emotions impact relationships. Her speech today is called From Gloom to Glad. Sarah.
All right, thank you, Teresa. All right. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't find Sarah's speech details, so I will introduce, move to the her speech. Gloom to glad, Sarah. Sarah, gloom to glad.
I'm upset because you're upset, and now I don't want to hang out. That's what I told my friend as we got out of the car. We had an argument while driving to meet our friends and play badminton. I was upset, but I'm not upset anymore. We need to stop this cycle, my friend said. That was true. Our argument was resolved, and I just needed to let go of the residual emotions. Also, our friends were in the gym expecting us. I didn't want to disappoint or be a downer. I needed to cheer up ASAP. But there's no quick way to switch my emotions. Code switching is the switching of language or behavior to suit a social situation. Can we learn to switch our emotions from negative to positive? For myself, I know there are some ways to snap out of an emotional funk. I know what can cheer me up. Good food, good music, to name a few. But there's no particular thing that I can rely on. It's more about applying a set of principles. One principle is to change my surroundings. When I'm upset, it's best to remove myself from my corner of misery and just get a change of scenery. Since there's nothing left to say, my friend and I went inside the busy badminton gym. My senses were quickly overwhelmed. Here were bright lights flooding the entire warehouse. There were rows and rows of courts, and there was a constant flurry of movement on every court. The air inside was thick and warm with all the sweaty, panting players. Birdies pinged back and forth, and sneakers squeaked as players lunged from side to side. This change of scenery provided a change of perspective. In the car, it was just my friend and me. Here, it seemed, was the rest of the world. While we two were having our little argument, the rest of the world was hitting birdies. Time to get with the program. Another sure way to cheer myself up is to be around people with whom I can't be upset. This requires putting on a smile, whether or not I feel like it. Studies show that faking a smile can actually make you feel happier. A fake smile will eventually become a real smile. As we navigated the gym, I saw my friends wave us over. I couldn't look glum to see them, so I smiled and waved back. I realized I was glad to see them, and feeling glad didn't allow me to be so sad anymore. Another great way to snap myself out of a depressed mood is to absorb myself in some activity that requires focus. That way, I can't continue to brood on my problem or mope. Our friends quickly invited us to join them and play a game. It had been a while since I'd played, so I had to focus on regaining some hand-eye coordination and to follow the rotational pattern for playing doubles with my friend. As we played, I couldn't continue to be upset. Brooding would require me to multitask as I played. Moping would require me to actively hide my delight as we scored a point, or stifle my laughter as we shook off the rust. That just wasn't worth the effort. After a few games, I felt a lot better. What completed my mood transformation was a bit of self-care. I often forget how much my physical needs can impact my mental state. Sleep deprivation, uncomfortable shoes, bad weather, these can all factor. In this case, I had a low-grade gnawing hunger. I had eaten a late lunch and skipped dinner. Chocolate cookie? Somebody offered. Yes, please, I said. The sugar hit my blood and lifted my spirits. They say chocolate is an antidepressant, and I couldn't agree more. After changing my surroundings, faking a smile, focusing on an activity, and attending to my physical needs, I had changed from glum to glad. My friend noticed me devouring the cookie. Would you like mine? No, but I appreciate the offer. You know, I'm glad we hung out. Thank you. Back to you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for sharing how we can move from negative emotion to positive one. All right, timer, please give us 1 minute for Sarah's speech evaluation. Our next speaker is Lakshmi Srida, and her evaluator is Priya. Priya, could you introduce Lakshmi's speech?
Lakshmi is giving a eulogy today for a person who is very close to her heart. She's presenting from Presentation Mastery Level 1, Evaluation and Feedback, Speech 1. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you. Lakshmi, men who loved donuts. Men who loved donuts, Lakshmi.
1956. A young man of 27, living in a village in India, first heard of a donut from a relative who had just visited the US. I don't know how the latter described it to the former, but this villager started having a craving for donuts. He did not mention about his cravings to anyone till he landed in the US in July 2018. The man who loved donuts was none other than my father-in-law. He was a hero to all his grandkids, a fighter in his life, and a foodie like me. It is very difficult for me to use the word was for him, as he passed away on May 27, 2021. Because of his work in the paddy fields, he was very strong, and the grandkids called him a muscle man. They loved him because he became a kid when he was with them. He was born in a very rich landlord family, but he lost his parents when he was a kid. With no rain and no support, he lost all his money. Somehow, he managed to educate all his children and make sure that they settled well. Health-wise too, he was a fighter. He survived cancer when he was in his 60s. I'm told that he traveled all by himself, by bus to the hospital for all his treatments. But in 2021, he got COVID. He fought bravely for more than 12 days, but his age was not in his favor. Both of us came from completely different backgrounds, yet we gelled together comfortably. I was not willing to change my lifestyle, but he changed his for me. We both had one thing in common: love for food. He was ready to experiment with any kind of vegetarian food, be it pasta, burrito, any sweet. A Japanese preparation called kombu onigiri. That was his favorite. When I lived in Bengaluru, he used to visit us very often. I used to make a lot of eatables that he liked and packed it in his bag the day before he traveled back to his village. My husband would come back home from work and check if the bag was heavy. He would get angry with me and ask me, "How do you think my dad can carry so much weight?" and remove some of the eatables from the bag. My father-in-law would look at me with his sad eyes. I would communicate with my facial expression that I would repack everything once my husband leaves the room. His eyes would immediately twinkle. Once my husband left the room, both the partners in crime would repack the bag with the snack, only to be caught the next day morning when both the father and the son would be hurrying to the railway station. My husband would just nod his head and smile. I have a very funny story to tell. Once my father visited us. At that time, my father-in-law was with me. I served them some snacks in the evening. My dad doesn't like snacks that much, so he took just a little. My father-in-law felt very uncomfortable to eat his regular quota in front of my dad. So he said, "Oh, who can eat so much? Take it away." After this, both my dad and I had to go out for some work. We just went one floor down and we realized that we had forgotten something. So we rushed back home. And what do we see? My father-in-law with a half-empty snacks container in one hand and some snacks stuffed in his mouth. When he saw us, he said, "Oh, I was just tasting the snack to see if it is good for your dad." He then smiled and winked at us. When I realized how much he had craved for donuts all these years, I got him donuts almost every day when he stayed with us. I'm happy I could fulfill his dream. But now when I see a donut, I have tears in my eyes. And all I can remember is the twinkle in his eyes. Back to you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you for sharing beautiful memories with your father-in-law with us. Right, timer, give us 1 minute for Lakshmi's speech evaluation. Next round is table topics. Today's table topics master is Kushbu. Kushbu, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Toastmasters. Hello, everyone, and today we are going to start now our table topics section. So our today's theme is code switching, and my questions are going to be surrounded around our theme. And most of our participants or the members today who are available in the meeting are mostly from our club only, and I hardly see one or two guests. But I would be first giving chance to the guest, and then I would be pointing out to some of our participants or the members. Okay, so my first question for today evening is for anyone who would like to take, I would say, how many of you understand the meaning of code switching actually before knowing this as our today's theme? Would you like to take this? You think, I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly. You think, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think it's Yu Ting, but she might be shy. We can come back to her.
Yeah, sure. So anyone else would like to take this question? I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but
I can try.
okay, go ahead.
So before knowing about today's theme, I knew about code switching a little bit because multitasking is related to code switching. When you multitask, you're forced to rethink what you were doing in the task one, set it aside, switch to task two, and change your context. So I knew that code switching is related to the action of changing your mindset, changing your emotions, changing your result based on the action task two, and the task has to be accomplished with a given set of results. But reading the blog that Renee wrote, I think she described very beautifully how code switching comes into play at the workplace, where you have to put yourself on the spot of the other person and think about the problems that the other person is facing and be cognizant of it and treat the person appropriate to his situation. Using good behavior and handling difficult situations is what code switching is about. So back to you, table topics master.
Thank you so much, Priya, for sharing your thoughts with us and the beautiful analogy of making it similar to, for easy to understand for all of us, that it is very much similar to the multitasking. Honestly, I was not aware about this term code switching, though most of us do this in our regular life. Even I'm like, I know 5 languages, but I am not aware about this term. I got to know when we had this theme here. Okay, my next question for tonight is, tell us a story when you and your family or friends celebrated a holiday from another culture. What did you learn from the experience? I repeat my question. Tell us a story of when you and your family or friends celebrated a holiday from another culture. What did you learn from the experience? Anyone would like to take it? No volunteers?
I can volunteer.
Okay.
When I was in 3rd grade, our family moved from Chicago, Illinois to San Antonio, Texas. We were suddenly part of a different culture than we were used to when we were living in Chicago. for sure. And one of the biggest cultural differences that we experienced were the very elaborate birthday parties with something called the piñata. We had no idea what this was. So the first time we were invited to a family's party for a friend from school, of course, we put on our best dress and brought a present. And then we went into the backyard, and up in the tree was I think it might have been a donkey, but it was very colorfully decorated. And everyone was so excited about what was up in the tree. I had no idea. I had no idea what was going to happen next. Everyone got a chance to get blindfolded. So a bandana put around our heads, and we were spun around and given a bat. And then we were told, try to hit the piñata up in the tree. I was amazed. How could this possibly be fun or even do anything? But I saw then what was happening. Every time a child would hit the piñata, it started to break apart. And then everyone was so excited because candy was falling from the piñata into the backyard. So that was my first introduction at about 8 years old, with a totally new way to celebrate a birthday rather than just bringing a present and sitting at a table and eating cake and ice cream. We had a piñata, and now I knew you had to be really strong with that bat to break it apart and then quickly take off your bandana off your eyes so you can grab some of the candy that fell out. Thank you for having me talk about my first experience with a different cultural celebration.
Thank you so much, Helen, for sharing your story. And I do see a lot of piñatas in so many birthday parties I attend with my son, of my friends and all. But yes, interesting story and interesting learn. My next question is, do you see any benefits of code switching? Can you please name a few? Would you like to, Sarah, would you like to take this question?
Okay. What are the benefits of code switching? Well, code switching includes more than just switching between languages. It can also mean switching between how you act, how you dress. And so we all perform different roles in our lives. At home, we're maybe a parent or a child. At work, we might be a manager or employee. With our friends, we want to be casual. So in each of these situations, we naturally code switch. We act differently. We have many different faces, essentially. Not to say that we're two-faced, but we have different aspects that we tap into around different people. And so it's important that we know to actually actively code switch when we need to. Similar to what Renee said earlier about being professional at the workplace, you probably don't want to be talking to your coworkers the way that you do with your friends casually. And maybe you don't want to be talking to them like you do to your family either. So these are some reasons why code switching is really important.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your thoughts with us today about it. And I really agree with you that because of code switching, we are unknowingly doing that. That means we do it naturally, and it really helps us to play or wear different hats the way we all wear it in different scenarios. My next question is, have you ever traveled to a country or a place or a city where you did not know the language? How did you communicate to get what you needed? Okay,
I can
Abhijit.
take it if nobody.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So
You want
Abhijit
Abhijit?
has
That's fine.
raised, yeah, Abhijit has raised a hand. So
Oh, okay,
please.
fine. Yeah.
It was year 2006. I was stuck in a small village in Switzerland called as Meisterschwanden. I was in a fancy hotel, but I was getting bored with it. It's like, oh, I want to explore the culture. So I wanted to find a place where I can eat. And I was asking the people where I can find places to eat, but it was very tough to communicate. They're speaking a totally different language. I could not understand. But somehow walking through, I found a place, a bar. I went there. It was a totally different place, very different pub than what we have around in US. There was no one whom I could tell what I wanted for dinner. I just had one request. I just wanted a vegetarian meal. It took me more than 30 minutes to convince the pub owner that, oh, I want something with just a salad. And I still remember she was so hospitable. She made sure that I get what I wanted. And it stayed with me. I will never forget that experience of the dinner I had at that pub and the experience I've had in Meisterschwanden. Something which I would always wish that you get a chance to explore. Sometimes some of these small places, they touch your heart that you will never forget. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Abhijit, for sharing the interesting story. And I will reach out to you that how was you able to communicate about the salad into a European country. I can totally understand the challenge there. My next question here is code switching limited to linguistics only, or does it expand its horizon to other levels? I will repeat my question. Is code switching limited to linguistics only, or does it expand its horizon to other levels? Renee, would you like to take this question?
Yes, I will. I will take that question. Hmm. Code switching is not limited to linguistic. It's also used in a workplace where it's referred to us changing our styles, appearance, behavior, and expression in certain ways to get certain things. Sometimes we do it to fit in. Some other times we do it to get better quality of service. And believe it or not, changing behavior or the way you present yourself can potentially increase the opportunity of having higher employment rate as well. For example, if you are talking about what happened last night with your friends, you might say something like, hey dude, that party was so lit. And guess what? That language right there is probably not so appropriate when you get into the workplace. Instead, you might say something similar to, I had some great conversation at that mixer last night with some of my coworkers. That sounded a lot more formal. Just using that as a contrast, you can immediately see the way that I express myself is quite different. And that slight change using different tone and different way of expressing myself is code switching in potentially different environment. So it's not just limited to a linguistic environment where you're changing different dialects and languages to fit a certain situation or context. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee, for very insightful answer with an example. Honestly, it is way more beyond than the linguistic thoughts. My next question is to our guest, Shanti. Shanti, there are so many ways of saying hello. How many do you know?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. Yep, I know like 3, 4 languages. So for your question, hello. In Tamil, you say vanakkam. in Hindi, namaskar, and then in um, uh, Bahunara, like in Telugu and Malayalam, somewhat related. Yeah, different languages have a different meaning, but however, the expression and the symbolic, the smile you give, it is all the same when you say hello. And that is the mm, beyond the language. There is no barrier for language for a smile and a wide handshake or just a gesture. That's what it meant.
Thank you so much, Shanti, for giving the great answer. And I learned new words. I think it's Valakam in Tamil is one word I was able to catch. I'm still learning it, but thank you.
Yeah.
My next question is for our timer today. Bhavna, would you like to take this question? My question for you is, how many different words you know from a particular language? I would say maybe from Hawaiian or any other language. Like, would you like to share some of the words from another language that you know? And we all can learn those words.
Okay, I don't know many languages, but I would say hola, ¿cómo está? Then from Hindi, yes, I will know all the words. What kind of examples I can give? Namaste, dhanyavad, to thank you. Yeah, I don't know many languages, so yeah, these are that come to my mind.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much, Bhavna, for sharing few words for all of us. Do we have time for one or two more, Madam Toastmasters? No? Okay. So, then thank you everyone for your time today for the table topics. And with this, I would like to say all of you, Dhanyavad. This is in Hindi. Thank you for Hindi. Okay. Dhanyavad. Back to you, Madam Toastmasters.
Thank you, Coach Shibu. And thanks for asking many very interesting questions, not just for code switching, for other languages as well. So I really enjoyed that. Also, thank you for all the participants for the table topics. So next round is for general evaluation. So today's general evaluator is Helen. Helen, could you please take it away?
Yes, I'd be happy to start off the evaluation portion of the meeting. And first of all, we'll have each evaluator give us their particular evaluation of the speech that was given. Looking at my notes here, I see that Shobha was the evaluator of Karen's speech.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Karen, good evening to you. What a lovely speech that you shared with us all today, and a lovely story as well. As George Eliot said, it is never too late to be what you might have been. And you showed us that it's never too late to be a mother. You got us into your story as soon as you started. You said, I'm going to share something personal and confidential. And my ears immediately perked up and I was listening to you. And when anybody says confidential and personal, you know it is going to be good. It was a very poignant speech. You covered your anguish, your process of choosing donor eggs or being sperm donation and why you did it. And finally ended with your excitement with 3 kids. You know, rule number 1 when we give a speech is to know your audience. I think except for Abhijit here, you pretty much know everyone and your topic really covered that today. I'm sure each and everyone in this audience felt what you said from their heart, that you should not wait too long, especially to be a mother. And personally for me, since I'm not a mother, it was, I would say to some extent, a bit nostalgic because I did go through what I was thinking during those times. And maybe I missed the boat then. And that's how you connected personally with me. And I'm sure with every single mother here or people who want to become a mother later on, you connected with them at a very personal level. It was a very vulnerable story. It's not easy to share such a story, but you did it without any effort and with excellent vocal modulation, with clarity, the way you spoke about it every single time. I enjoyed the whole speech and just listening to you. If I were to give you some suggestions at all, some improvements, that would be that I think you did have notes somewhere because I could see you were looking down and up all the time. So yeah, I know we are all, as seasoned speakers, we all know that's not done, but this could be the first time you have written it down. That's perfectly fine, but that's what you did. The second would be, this whole project is about humor. You did have a lot of humor when you showed your twins flushing the toilet and how naughty they are. But maybe it could have been even better if you had some vocal modulation with speech delivery. For example, we went to Hawaii and for the first time, they learned how to flush the toilet. You know, the way you put it together, it helps with humor, just because your objective is all about giving a humorous speech. And also other thing would be when you said there is third set of genetics involved with a sperm donation, you know, just make it a little bit funny there. You know, I really didn't want my child to have black hair or something like that, just to bring in a bit of humor here and there. And that will really connect with the audience even more. But to end it, you had a great speech and I think we all connected well. And the way you ended saying that you wanted them to grow into good young men, oh yeah, that really touched me deeply. Please take this speech to women's conferences wherever you're going to, and you can make it actually an inspirational speech on how not to wait and how it's never too late. Back to you, Helen.
Thank you, Shobha. That was a wonderful summary of the speech and some great points that you shared with Karen today. Our next evaluator is Samantha. She's evaluating Shannon's speech on AC versus DC. Samantha.
Thank you, Helen. Shannon, thank you for your wonderful speech about AC and DC current. I loved your intro. You set the scene and you gave a fact. And for me, at least, you gave me a question. The fact was that solar panels don't work when the power is out. And the question was, why does that not work? You also told us what you were going to discuss and you set up your speech. So props on that. I felt engrossed very quickly into your story because you were telling a story, not just giving a research and presentation speech. You were able to incorporate the sources you used well within your speech, and you didn't just give us a bunch of stats and facts that, for me personally, I would not have remembered. But instead, you kind of sprinkled it in and you gave us a very educational story. Your voice inflections were good and you helped express the emotions of the story. I did miss some of your hand gestures when you went off screen, and I felt that you could have used more facial expressions. It may feel like you're over the top, but it really helps bring everyone into the story. Kind of like theater kids. I don't know if you did theater, but they're very expression. Like when you did 1 mile, you'd have been like 1 mile to really express that you had to be close to be able to get the power. At the end, you gave us an overview of your speech and you answered the question that you gave me in the beginning, why solar panels don't work when the power is out. And it felt like you tied your speech with a nice little bow because of it. Overall, you gave a great speech, and I learned a lot about the history of AC and DC current. Thank you. Back to you, Helen.
Thank you, Samantha, for a great evaluation of Shannon's speech, I too learned quite a bit, having recently put solar panels on my roof and being told that I got to store it in batteries in order to use it if I need it. So there you go. And I also thought you gave her some great suggestions for improving the speech. So thank you for that. Our next evaluator is Teresa. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing that correctly. You're evaluating Sarah's speech from gloom to glad. Teresa?
Thank you. Hi, so I'm going to evaluate Sarah's speech from gloom to glad. And Sarah, I want to say from the beginning, I was kind of drawn in, even just getting the name of the speech from gloom to glad. I'm like, how's this speech actually going to go? Like, I'm really intrigued. And then you start off in the first sentence, you say, I'm upset that you're upset. I'm like, now I'm in. You've got me drawn in. I'm upset that you're upset. Like, you've given me the situation. You got me captivated. Everybody's kind of paying attention. They're all engaged and they're really wanting to know where you're going to go with the speech. And then you start diving in and not just giving a speech, but giving like the examples of how the relationship goes, of when you've gotten in an argument with someone and how that emotion goes up and down, kind of like a roller coaster, and how you kind of get out of it, right? We've all been there. We've been in that situation where you're kind of like, oh, I'm upset. Now I have to go to this party and oh, I don't really be there. But now you're like, oh, now you gave the example of the situation change. I'm sorry, I can't even talk. The situation of our emotion, changing our emotions from negative to positive. And how do we do that? And then you gave the examples of how to do that, keeping us kind of intrigued, like, oh yeah, I've done that before, and I've done this before. So like changing my surroundings, which changes my perspective. And then faking a smile. I can't tell you how many times in a day I've actually faked a smile just to get through it. And then it actually turns into a real smile. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm kind of out of that funk. So being engaged, I was there. I could see everybody else paying attention. Your eye contact was there. You're definitely moving around and keeping us kind of into you. The audience awareness, I would say I probably want to kind of pick up, there was some heads that kind of dropped, but I mean, that just goes with speeches. But at that point, I would probably kind of throw something out there and say, hey, like, how'd that work out for you? Like you guys kind of worked, been in that kind of situation. And then also the voice variation, as an improvement, I'd like to see like when you were low, kind of drop it just a little bit lower, kind of like be dramatic with it and kind of be really low with it. Because it was kind of, I don't want to say one even tone, it wasn't monotone, but like when you were excited, it wasn't over the top. And when you were low, it wasn't like really low. So that would be the improvement for me. But I was very intrigued. I really like your speech. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Great ideas for improving that speech to really draw in the audience, get them more engaged, and a little bit more drama, because, you know, drama queens, you know, get the emotion going, because it was an emotional topic. So thank you. That was great advice. Our last speaker this evening, evaluator is Priya, and she was evaluating Lakshmi's tribute to her father-in-law. Priya.
Thank you, General Evaluator. First of all, Lakshmi, you took us on a nostalgic ride of your father-in-law's life. 3 things you did good was you had a chronological presentation of your father-in-law's life story. You had one humorous episode. You had his emphasis on food, being a foodie, being a Muslim man, and being very jovial was very clear to all of us who listened. Your organization of the speech was very clear. You emphasized the introduction in the ending as well. Your use of props was appropriate. You showed a donut. That's good. 3 things you can improve is you can add a picture of him in the beginning to keep us all hooked to how he looked. And so we can see his muscles. We can relate to what you're talking and use your adjectives appropriately. You used some quotes. Maybe you can have that written on a piece of paper and show it up to the screen, so we remember that. But overall, very good delivery of the speech, and I could see the emotion that you were feeling at that point, and a lot of us could relate to having those memories with close relations when they pass away. So good job, and I hope to listen more to your speech and listen to your speech with all the feedback incorporated. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Priya. Some good suggestions for Lakshmi to add a few more concrete props. But the emotion certainly came through, and our hearts go out to you, Lakshmi, as losing someone so precious to you. So thank you for sharing his life with us this evening. As you vote for the best evaluator, we'll move on to getting the reports from our timer for all of our speeches and table topics this evening.
So starting from icebreaker, Renee, 3 minutes, 4 seconds. Speeches, first speaker, Karen, 7 minutes, 35 seconds. Second speaker, Shannon, 6 minutes, 37 seconds. Third speaker, Sarah, 5 minutes, 29 seconds. And fourth speaker, Lakshmi, 7 minutes, 14 seconds. Coming to evaluations, first evaluation, Shobha, 3 minutes, 45 seconds. Second evaluation, Samantha, 2 minutes, 5 seconds. Third evaluation, Teresa, 2 minutes, 52 seconds. Fourth evaluation, Priya, 2 minutes, 10 seconds. For the table topics, Priya, 1 minute, 23 seconds. Helen, 2 minutes, 26 seconds. Sarah, 1 minute, 21 seconds. Abhijit, 1 minute, 29 seconds. Renee, 1 minute, 53 seconds. Shanti, 50 seconds. And Bhavna, 55 seconds.
Thank you. Very complete job this evening. Moving on to our next role of counter. I believe Abhijit, you took that on this evening.
Thank you so much. I'll just share my screen. Sujin had 1 false start. Charasa uses many times, maybe 10, 12 times, 1 times and 4 times false start. Helen, you had 1 and 1 Renee had 1 and. Kushbu had 4 Shanti had 4 1 2 ands. Shobha had 1 3 1 but, 1 and. Samantha had 1 1 and 1 false start. Priya had 4 4 ands, 1 but, 1 false start. Bhavna had 2 and 1 false start. Back to you, Madam General.
Thanks so much. Usually I have many so's in my speeches. So there you have it. You get rid of one and you add another one. Excellent. We have, I'm not sure who the grammarian is. Is it Renee? Renee's doing grammarian? Okay, go for it, Renee.
There are quite a few of us have said code switching. I'm a terrible grammarian, but I counted Priya, Sarah, Kushbu, Renee, and perhaps a couple others. There are some really good usage of sentences and structure as well. Sarah's, I really like hers description of 2 small paragraphs. Here were bright lights flooding the warehouse. There were rows and rows of green courts and a constant flurry of movement on every court. That's just so beautiful. And the air inside was thick and warm from all the sweaty, panting players. That was so great. And Samantha used the words felt engrossed, which was a phenomenal usage of how she felt when she was listening to the speech. Priya used nostalgic ride, and I really like that usage of word choices. And some potential improvement, I'm just going to summarize into 2 large buckets because quite a lot of us repeated the similar errors or could potentially be improved. Abhiji, Shanti, and Bhavna, there are some run-on sentences in the way that you guys answer table topics, which is usually normal in spoken English, but if it could be improved, a run-on sentence usually occur when 2 or more independent clauses are connected inappropriately. So it's not complete sentences. If that's something that you want to improve on, potentially watch out for some of the run-on sentences that tend to occur in your tables topics or non-prepared speeches. And Shobha and a couple others have some errors in parallelism. Parallelism in sentences mainly refer to like matching grammatical structures. And a lot of times we like to say roses, cups, and washing dishes. Roses and cups are 2 nouns and washing dishes is a verb plus noun and it end up becoming not as parallel. So using that as an example for everyone to potentially improve on the grammatical changes in the future. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee. I'll do a brief summary of the meeting from my point of view. Initially, I thought the theme of code switching was difficult to get my head around, but after hearing all of the discussions and the way people used it in their speeches and in their responses to the table topics, I have a broader appreciation of code switching and how it can be defined in the larger context of our everyday life. So thank you for that. I really liked the initial profile, looking at some of the newer up and coming leaders, women leaders. That's always inspirational. And the speeches were just wonderful as usual, which keeps me coming back to this club time after time. Heartfelt, funny stories about babies, detailed information presented in an engaging style, concrete ideas for how to code switch our emotions, and a loving tribute to the family patriarch. What a combination of wonderful topics presented in such a wonderful format with great evaluators. So thank you all. I feel it's a privilege to be a member of this club. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. And I would like to end our meeting with a quote here. Can you guys see my screen okay? I am very happy that my screen is back. So from The Guardian, I don't code switch to hide my identity. I code switch to celebrate it. And many of us come from many different identities, and I would encourage you guys to embrace the different languages that you speak, the different identity that you own, and who do you like to come out as an expression to celebrate it wholeheartedly. And continue the celebration. We are Presidents Distinguished. So congratulations, everyone. We achieved 9 goals together as a club, and well-earned awards. So thank you guys so much. And drum roll, please, for our best speaker of the evening, Lakshmi. Congratulations. That was a wonderful speech. And drum roll for the best table topics. We have 2 winners, Abhiji and Shanti. Congratulations. And the best evaluator, final drum roll, Samantha. Congratulations. All of these awards will be posted on our webpage, the awards and accomplishment section. You guys can use that to track your future progress as well. And we also post it on our monthly newsletter as well. So it's month of July. Today is our first meeting. There are a couple other meetings coming up. The next Wednesday, we will be having a marketing webinar hosted by our former division director, Megan, and she will be moderating and Kushbu to share with you some of the marketing tips and tricks. And the first one went really well. This is the second one last week. And following that, the same day, we will have our virtual happy hour. So for those of you who missed out the last 2 times we have these virtual games, please come join us. This is a fun time to get to know your team members and in a not so formal environment. And then we have our regular meeting following that. Be in the present moment is the theme, and a feature workshop. Abhishek, do you want to say a few words about the guests that we invited?
Yes. PK is the semi-finalist from the World Championship of Public Speaking. He's going to give us advanced tips to take our script to the next level. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. So please look at our meeting link here. You will be able to take a look at, you'll be able to bookmark these hopefully. And if not, watch out for our email that's coming out. The newsletter should have already gone into your inbox. If you haven't seen the newsletter specifically and would like to get access to it, please feel free to submit on our main web page, the home page. There's actually functionality where you get to submit to be part of our newsletter. And I will maybe copy this here in the chat window so you guys can start to that. And then following that, we have 4 new blog posts that's written. So the first one is about the my computer is not working here. The first one is about code switching, and the second one, Jojo wrote about mental health, and then Priya wrote about how to write a blog, how to create a podcast, and Sujin actually wrote about one of the woman leaders that she presented previously on Brene Brown. So take a look at some of these blog posts, wonderfully written, and hopefully you guys will find them very interesting and useful. And based on our live survey last time, a lot more of you guys actually prefer YouTube. So we started creating these YouTube videos that are only about 2 minutes long. So take a look at them and let us know if you guys would like to see them. And for the first one, for example, I used 2 minutes to explain what switching really is, and we had that blog post as well. So with that, we are right on time with 2 minutes to spare to hear from our guests and let us know your feedback. If you're shy, feel free to just submit it in this link. If not, please come up and share your camera. Let us know what you enjoy and how we can improve our session screen now. We have guests here. Shanti, how was your experience? Shanti, are you there? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, this is my 3rd or 4th time, I think, I'm attending the meeting. I love it, and I came for fun evening, virtual learning and drawing and all. I was there. I love it, so I wanted to join the club. So that's the reason I'm just pinging Priya and for the next step.
That's awesome. Congratulations and welcome to be part of this family. We will, if you are local, we will likely meet sometime soon in August timeframe for once, just to meet everyone face to face. If not, we'll continue to keep this virtually for those who are joining us like in more remote locations. And you'll be assigned a mentor, and we look forward to continue to watch you grow with us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. If there is nothing else, I'll stop recording and the meeting is adjourned. Happy